St. John's. Give me Duke to take home the national title.
And we don't we all three agree, and Tyler, I know you got to go here in a second, and we do too. Don't we agree Cooper Flagg's not going to play in the 1 versus 16 game? He'll play the weekend probably. And what is that 8-9 matchup? I'm just looking again for Duke in that 8-9.
Mississippi State Baylor.
Yeah, Mississippi State or Baylor in the East Regional. Interesting too. Duke got Alabama and Wisconsin and Arizona in the bottom of the draw. It seems to be kind of an easier one. But Tyler, do you agree? We might not see Cooper Flagg till the weekend here. Why would they risk it the way they've looked without him playing a 16 seed?
Yeah, I think it's kind of an emergency situation. If they get down, if one of those two games is close, then you put him in and you go all out. But I would be surprised if Duke finds themselves in an emergency situation. One quick note we mentioned on West Virginia missing the tournament. Bracket Matrix, which has 111 brackets. Every single one of them had West Virginia in the tournament. This was a screw job.
Yeah, and what did I see that on Texas? I believe it wasn't Texas. It was somebody. It was Boise State. There were 90 of them that had Boise State. There were only 20-something that had North Carolina out of the 111. But again, you don't know what that committee's thinking.
Only 15 had Texas.
That's incredible. All right, Tyler, thank you. Great stuff. Follow him at Tyler Jones Live on social media. The Jones Report is the podcast. He'll have more in the preview mode of the tournament. Chat Sports as well. Thank you on Selection Sunday night, Tyler Jones.
Always a pleasure, boys. We'll see you in San Antonio.
There you go. That's for the Final Four coming up. Again, we are live here tonight on the platforms of college basketball coast to coast. Again, Jason and I called Mount St. Mary's win in the Metro Atlantic Conference Tournament last night. We're coming to you live at Hartsfield International Airport.
A25 of the Delta Terminal. A25.
Trying to get out of here in a little while. So we're squeezing in a quick Selection Sunday show, but we called Mount St. Mary's win over Iona in the Metro Atlantic Tournament last night. They end up being a 16 seed like we theorized. They're in Dayton to play American University, and the winner will come out of there and play Duke, Jason.
Their fans were chanting last night, we want Duke, but they're going to get Duke if they can find a way to get through Dayton.
Yeah, that's what it will end up being. And again, I was looking to the other 1 versus the 16 matchup that we got out of the top teams. That is Auburn playing either Alabama State or St. Francis. St. Francis had the losing record. Alabama State has Tony Madlock, the former Memphis State Tiger star who played with Penny Hardaway. That's his team.
And those two schools are literally like 30 minutes apart from Montgomery to Auburn. Because Alabama State and Auburn, they're literally geographically
so
an hour apart.
That's in Dayton. What about Auburn's bracket, real quick, while we talk again about the top seeds here? Auburn gets Michigan State as the 2, Jason Powers. They get Iowa State as the 3, Texas A&M as the 4, Michigan as the 5, Ole Miss as the 6. That seems to be a pretty tough bracket for the number 1 overall seed, just on a glance.
I agree. Remember, Texas A&M beat Auburn a couple weeks ago, so that 1-4 matchup potentially in the Sweet 16 with Texas A&M, that could be tricky. I like Michigan State.
Louisville Creighton is the 8-9 game to play Auburn. Yeah. That's interesting. Most
people thought Louisville would be a 6 or 7, drop to an 8. So yeah, that's McDermott's a great coach. He can coach them up. So keep an eye. They got Kalkbrenner who could potentially neutralize Broome there. So keep an eye on Creighton there if they get through Louisville.
Again, we await Matt Zimick to join us in a couple of moments. He's out west. We'll get some thoughts on some of the Western teams. Speaking of West, my Memphis Tigers again are shipped to Seattle. That's a snub to me. Again, their policies and procedures with the committee, Jason, are that if you're a top 4 seed, they keep you in proximity the first weekend to where you are. If you're 5 and beyond, you can go anywhere. You can go to the Northeast, the Pacific Northwest. You can go to Mars. Who knows? Memphis has to go to Seattle as the American regular season champs, as the American tournament champs, and play Colorado State, which regionally should have a little easier time getting there for fans. And again, that's in the West bracket where Seattle ultimately is. I didn't get your reaction as well to the Power Coaches Pod. Kansas, Arkansas in the 7-10 game, the winner to get likely St. John's in the next game in a second round game on the weekend, probably a Sunday late game.
That's either Saturday night prime time, 7:30, 8 o'clock CBS, or Sunday night leading into 60 minutes. One of the two, depending on whether it's Thursday,
right,
Thursday, Saturday, or Friday, Sunday.
Yeah, we got most of that answer, I think, here on the live stream, that maybe it will be Sunday night prime time or Saturday night prime time for a second round matchup, Kansas, Arkansas, St. John's, to maybe get the winner. Again, we're live on the college basketball coast to coast platforms here on Selection Sunday night. Let's bring in Matt Zimick for some thoughts real quick here with us. While we're on that subject, welcome, my friend. What about the Power Coaches pod that we have up on the screen? Kansas, Arkansas, and St. John's. What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, I'm certainly leaning toward Arkansas against Kansas, and that sets up Patino Calipari. I mean, that's just one of those sexy second round games. You know, they always line up a few of them, so you know, could be a very Italian second round there.
And the possible return of Boogie Fland, who could be back for Arkansas from all indications that he's going to be back in the mix. TJ, quick thing for you. I know we've talked.
One thing, apparently the internet is just going to lag to death here at the Hartsfield International Airport. We're going to try to let it catch up for a second if we are able. We apologize for that technical difficulty. Again, we're doing the show on the fly. Jason and I have had a wild travel day just trying to get where we could do the selection show after it happens. So I think the internet stream is caught up. Say what you were saying again, Jason. I don't know what your thought was, but try again.
Yeah. So what I know, a narrative we had talked about for several weeks that came to fruition. It's done. It's done. It's there. It's done. Can you hear me, Matt?
Yes.
I think we're having some technical issues on TJ's end. You're here again, college basketball coast to coast. A narrative, Matt, you and I talked about was blue bloods in the 7-8 number. Gonzaga, Connecticut, UCLA. I mean, we saw in the committee, and it delivered, you know, Louisville as an 8. So we talked about potential blue bloods in those 8-9 matchups that potentially would play the 1 or 2 seeds. And we saw some of that with, obviously, we got Gonzaga potentially could play Houston in round 2. Connecticut could play Florida, I believe. UCLA's a 7. I don't know who they're pitted up with in that second round game. I don't have it right in front of me. I know that's 7. Yep. I think UCLA's got a tricky round 1 game. They very easily could lose in that 10 seed in round 1. Give me a thought there.
Yeah, and I mean, Utah State, you know, that is a tricky opponent. Jared Calhoun, you know, Utah State, for those who don't follow the program closely, Utah State's that program where coaches step in and they instantly win there, and then they climb the ladder to bigger jobs. And it's just crazy how coaches just cycle through Logan and they win. Jared Calhoun, the latest one to do that.
3 coaches in 3 years, Matt Semick, have gotten Utah State to the tournament, right?
In a very compressed amount of time, yes.
What did you think, Matt, of Oregon being a 5 seed? I thought it was that's a little high, a bit higher than I thought Oregon was going to be as a 5 seed. Give me a thought of Oregon out west.
Yeah. Oregon lost early in the Big Ten tournament, so that means like Oregon was already a 5 going in. That's crazy. Oregon was generally regarded, I think, as a 7. Maybe the ceiling was a 6, and Oregon needed to play its way into a 5. Losing early Friday in the Big Ten quarters, that made no sense. And the Big Ten tournament continues to be the most ignored tournament in terms of the results factoring into the bracket. Like, how does Michigan get a 5 and Wisconsin get a 3, even though Michigan won the Big Ten tournament? Michigan beat Purdue in the Big Ten quarters, and Michigan is still seated lower than Purdue. They always ignore the result of that Big Ten tournament final on Sunday afternoon right before the selection show.
And again, the internet trying to hang in. We'll stay here for a couple of more minutes here on this. Thank you for covering that part of it. And guys, let's just, Matt, I'll tee you up here on this. Give me an early upset pick or 2 from the West Coast Bureau Chief. What do you like looking at it, especially teams with double digits next to their names?
TJ, you need to hope that I'm wrong, but Colorado State over Memphis is just raging out as that 12-5 upset. I also like Yale to spring a 13-4 upset for the second straight year. Remember, Yale beat Auburn last year. I really like Yale over Texas A&M in another 4-13
Any
upset.
thought on McNeese and Clemson all the way from the ACC? Clemson had a good year, not a great year. They got a decent 5 seed. McNeese dangerous, or what do you think?
Well, Clemson's without Dylan Hunter, not Chase Hunter, but Dylan Hunter, a key role player. And you go up against Will Wade in the NCAA tournament like that. That game is going to be close.
Hey, Matt, give me of the 4 Power 5 teams in the play-in games in Dayton, Texas, Xavier, Carolina, San Diego State. Which one of those 4 could potentially win 2, maybe 3 games? Texas, maybe?
Texas, because there's Trey Johnson. Trey Johnson's a guy who can just say, hey, climb on my back, come along for the ride. I'm going to hang 40 on these guys. Texas.
Interesting on that. We got to go here in a couple of moments. Did you make a Final Four pick, either Jason or Matt Zimick? Do you have a Final Four yet, or too soon for you, Jason?
I'm going to give you a sleeper team. I like BYU's draw. I think they got a decent draw. If they can get out of that first game with VCU, they got an up and down team with Wisconsin, who I think they can outscore. Keep an eye on BYU as a sleeper.
Matt Zimick, Final Four picks.
The only time we had 4 number 1 seeds at the Final Four, 2008 in San Antonio, with, of course, TJ's Memphis Tigers being there, making it to the national championship game. This bracket, the way it shakes out, I'm liking all 4 number 1 seeds. You know, I was ready to take St. John's over Duke, but St. John's is being thrown into the same region as Florida, and Florida looks like the best team in the country right now. I mean, Florida is playing the best basketball of any team in the country right now, more than St. John's, because Florida's doing it in the SEC. St. John's is doing it in the Big East. Florida St. John's, to me, is the ultimate attraction in this bracket, certainly of any non-Final Four game. Houston Gonzaga, right there in the conversation as well in terms of non-Final Four games. But St. John's getting Florida, big bad Florida, that's a bad break for Rick Pitino. So I'm liking all 4 number 1 seeds to go to San Antonio. And so, yeah, 2008, it was San Antonio which had all 4 number 1 seeds. So how about that?
All right, so that's an interesting pick. Again, we've got to get out of here. We got mayhem on our own in the Atlanta airport. Matt Zimick, thank you. Jason Powers, thank you. We'll try to hang in there with the live stream on all the platforms of college basketball coast to coast on the podcast. There's the Selection Sunday night show, brief as it was. I appreciate the help from Matt and from Tyler. Jason, let's try to get home, brother. Let's just try to get home. That's all we're looking at doing here on a Sunday night. And then we'll sort out the bracket some more, and we'll preview a little more later on in the week after the first 4 when the field narrows down. Good stuff tonight, Jason.
Got it. See you in row 35.
Yes, we will be flying later tonight. We thank you for hanging in here wherever you found us, wherever you saw us tonight on Selection Sunday night. Again, we're in podcast form, wherever you get podcasts, all the social media platforms, YouTube, etc. It is college basketball coast to coast. Good night on Selection Sunday night.